I have a treat for you. Talk about a soul sister, Jessica Zweig, CEO and founder of SimplyBe. She's an author and, of course, a podcast host. One of the best podcasts that I've been on, and I've been on so many because of her frequency. Welcome to the Playbook, Jessica.
Oh my gosh, David, I'm so honored to be here on your frequency, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start with that frequency because I think one of the terms that is most overused with the abundant amount of content is authenticity.
Yes.
And for you and I, we talked a lot about frequency and vibration and awareness as it's related to frequency and vibration. And consistency plays such a huge role in authenticity. But to be authentic or to have a frequency, you have to know self.
Yes.
And what do you see as the biggest challenge? You're younger than I, you're a little earlier in the journey, and this journey of self has been one of, complete exploration and learning for me. So I'd love to take myself back to someone that shares similar views with what's going on today and say, what does that journey of self look like for someone like you?
I mean, it's not a road of rainbows and butterflies. Let's just say that, we talk about authenticity a lot, you and I want to really breathe new life into this word this year. I'm on a mission to do that because it is overused and people don't know what it means anymore. And I think, I talk a lot about light, shining your light, being the light, inspiring people, owning your greatness and the gratitude way. And such a big piece to that, David, is looking at your shadow, is really owning the darkness in you and going within and taking ownership and accountability and doing the hard work. Like, personal growth is a trend and it's a thing to do these days, but the truth is transformational work is really, really tough. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a daily practice. As you know, it's a journey within. Authenticity is the journey within, not the projection without, right? And so for me, I think I've activated my awakening into authenticity based on my most significant rock bottom moments in those last, few years of my life, within the last decade especially. And it was me really being willing to look at how I showed up and my responsibility and my part in those particular rock bottoms, and not playing the victim, but really looking at myself as the co-creator of everything in my life. And that includes the good and the bad. And that has really been, I think, my key to awakening authenticity, because I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to share it all. And that includes the good and the success, as well as the pain. And I think that's really the integration, is where authenticity comes to life.
Yeah, it's funny because the term that comes to mind is illumination, which is
Mm-hmm.
obviously directed towards life. And within the context of illuminating, we have to illuminate our weaknesses and our challenges and the darkness that you talk about. And I utilize a candle analogy that has really changed my life, because there was times in my life where the exterior vision or view of who authentic David Meltzer was truly different than the light that I was emitting, because like a candle, I was holding in a scarce way my own light. I was too afraid to liberate others with my light. And the candle analogy is this: I am like a candle. I had this huge light that everyone could see, so successful and married with children and all the things that everyone wanted. But yet all I was doing was burning my own candle down to literally the base. When I learned that the more that I shared my light, my authentic self, my frequency, illuminating all the screwed up stuff that happened to me and happened in the lessons and all the dummy tax that I paid. When I started sharing the light like a candle, my candle stopped burning. I
Yeah.
because when we share, and if you keep sharing your light, and this became to me a symbol and a motivator that I see within the context of you and your podcast and your new book coming out in February, that you're learning not to burn your own candle, because some of us are just filled with so much light. And yet I see so many people that are filled with this liberation, this unbelievable illumination, burning themselves all the way down because they're not sharing that life. And the reason I think it is, and I'd love for you to share your kind of opinion or perspective on it, is worth. I
Yes.
was never worthy of everything I received, and I burned myself out because of it. I'd love for you to share kind of your own experience with worth and where that's evolving for you and for others that you help.
Yes. Well, you really said it at the beginning. We truly are soul brother sister. We have lived different lives, different timelines, but similar
Yeah,
stories.
we live together in a different life.
We did
So yeah,
a thousand.
now
We'll
we're just
probably,
rejoining right now.
yeah, and we'll see each other in the next one or
You were the
few.
middle-aged Jewish guy last time, and I was the beautiful young woman last time. So
I'll
I'm
take
just
it
telling
because
you.
I want a lot of what you got. So that sounds great to me. So, it's funny. So I was very light and bright and sparkly on the outside for a chapter of my life. I started my first company when I was 26. It was an online magazine for women. We were the hottest platform in the city of Chicago. It was called Cheeky, Cheek with a Y, cheekychicago.com. And we reached 100,000 local women. It was my first venture into entrepreneurship. We were crushing it. We were covering the city, nightlife, restaurants, hotspots, fashion, fitness, partnering with all the brands. And all of a sudden, as a girl that was quite nerdy in high school, I was all of a sudden this cool girl in Chicago. So you can imagine what that did to my ego, and was really operating from that place. And from the outside in, Cheeky was the place to work. It was the girls to know. We had our fingers on the pulse of this major city, Chicago, and in the inside, we were a mess. I was toxic, in a toxic relationship with my business partner. I was going out 6 nights a week, over drinking, partying, on the pursuit to be seen. We didn't know how to lead. Our staff hated us. We had no financial acumen. We were actually broke. And so this facade, right, of light, of sparkle, of, in fact, genuine inauthenticity eventually caught up to me. And I crashed and I had a full-on nervous breakdown. About 6 years-ish in, I got really physically ill. I had to get a surgery on my sinuses. I was recovering from that surgery, and I was forced to sit with myself and simply be with myself for the first time in my whole freaking life, to be honest, at that stage. And it was really the beginning of my spiritual journey in a big way. It was an acceleration into that, because I was really, I thought my worth, back to your question, was everything to do with seeing my name in lights, or seeing my name in a magazine, or being a girl that could get into any nightclub I wanted. And I had, forget the money in the bank. I didn't believe that I had value unless people thought I was cool. And that was a real reckoning. And ended up leaving that magazine, zero money, had to go drive to the suburbs, my nice Jewish parents in the North Shore of Chicago, at 33 years old, and ask them to help me pay my $250 AT&T phone bill, because I was so broke, while simultaneously running the most popular magazine in Chicago. And that's where my book starts, to be frank. That story is the beginning. The first chapter of my book is that drive. And so self-worth to net worth is, in the title of my book, which is somewhat of a misnomer, because I don't really talk too much about money in my book. Net worth is what you want it to be. It can be money, it can be freedom, it can be self-love. But you have to have that feeling of your own value, that because you exist, because you breathe, because you were born, you matter, and you're important, and you're worthy of having anything you want. And that took me almost my whole life up until recently to figure out.
That's beautiful. And I have my own personal mantra I still use today. I'm worthy of everything I receive. And I'm always on a quest to learn to love myself, which lends to what I think is a great asset, which is our personal brand. I spent the
Yes.
majority of my life building brands, corporate brands, celebrities, athletes, entertainment, and their brands. And until I met Gary Vaynerchuk and saw that, this guy that was very similar to myself built
Yeah.
this enormous brand, I started to realize that through the internet, that there's a great opportunity to shine my light and show my frequency. But the one thing I noticed, and why I felt, as we talked about being patient in the infinity of time, was that the truth vibrates the fastest. And so I always had to adhere to the truth. And, coming from an overselling, back end selling, manipulating, lying self, which you probably cover in your book, No Bullshit, a guide
Yeah.
to being honest, right? But for me, I remember I was traveling, speaking in Madrid, and my first reaction, we were late. Something happened with the plane or the train or whatever. And I showed up to the entrepreneur office, huge speech, and it was over. And so I
Yeah.
looked to my media guy, who's completely authentic, And I was like, hey, let's just recreate a video. They'll let me go on stage, at the stage theory, everybody will get to see me speak in Madrid and it'll build my brand. And he looked at me and said, no, we're not doing that. That's the old you, right? That's what you
Mm,
used to do. What we're going to
yes.
do is tell a story and make a video about how this happened. And we're going to illuminate that you missed a speech, and it's going to be
Ooh,
more powerful than the speech itself. That to me was owning my personal brand and building a brand with patience and for me, persistence. And so many people miss the boat. I was talking about someone else that I listened to an interview, and I said that'll never resonate because it's a low vibration. It's just not true, right? You listen to it and you don't feel good. You feel like it's BS. For
yes.
you came to this place of, you call rock bottom. I always say my rock bottom had a basement, so I always laugh when people say they hit rock bottom. But you hit your basement
Yep.
and you found yourself. And
Yep.
within finding yourself, you've learned and you still are learning to love yourself. What advice would you give to people that everyone's in this quandary, everyone's in this challenge, especially because it's amplified with the internet, regardless of whether you want to build the brand or not? Everyone's amplified by the internet in one way or another.
Hmm.
What is the advice that you would give, especially to the younger girls and boys out there that are, really living their lives and learning their value from what they see of themselves and their friends on the internet and their influencers? What advice would you give about building this personal brand and feeling good about it?
My first question to them would be ask yourself, how can you serve? How can you help people? Because I believe that's what we're really here to do. Like, I mean, on planet Earth, not just in our jobs, but here on planet Earth. So, what lights you up the most? And I guarantee if you really plugged into that question, you'd see it's helping other people in whatever format that looks like to you. And start there. And it's so easy to get caught up in the vanity metrics and the FOMO of Instagram and TikTok, and all of that stuff is just the dressing to what your purpose really needs to be and how it can come to life and where it can be seen in a conduit to community. Sure. But I talk about personal brand in my book. My whole business is personal branding. And I feel like I have a very unique perspective on it, which is it's not just about your platform and your social following. In fact, that's the last place we go. It's about your value. It's the intersection of what you do, why you would get paid to do something professionally, but who you are. Because all of who you are is not just what you do. Simply be, right? It's not simply do. And so really understanding and articulating what makes you you. What are the qualities of your personality that you can own and that are one of a kind to you? And then how do you turn those qualities into services and offerings and the ability to connect more deeply and authentically on your terms with who you want to serve? Because you can't be liked by everyone. That's a zero-sum game. So don't try, like be everything to everyone, be nothing to no one. That is marketing 101, my friend. So really remembering that. Speaking of frequency, like your vibe attracts your tribe. And we can say tribe because we're Jews. So, so your vibration, right, is just your energy. It's the frequency of you. And the more that you are confident in you, which is a journey, right? It's a practice. We don't learn to love ourselves overnight. We fall down, we get back up. But the more that you vibrate at your own unique frequency, I say two things will happen. One, you're going to repel people who are not at that frequency. That's just science. That's okay. And you're going to magnetize. The second thing is you're going to magnetize more of who is for you. That includes friends, speaking to the young ones, that includes followers, that includes clients, that includes your network, that includes abundance, that includes joy on your terms, whatever that means to you. And so I really just encourage young people to tune in, remembering that this is an inside job, knowing your brand, building your brand. It's not an outside job. People think it is. That's the second step, sure. But the first step is going within, owning and knowing what makes you you, and asking yourself, how can I help other people with my gifts?
Yeah, I think you illustrate being a pleaser, someone who probably
Of
when you were younger in your first journey wanted everyone to love you and you end up
course.
no one loving you. And I was the same way. And I heard a saying, right? I'd rather people hate me for who I am than love me for who I'm not. And that's really resonated with me, which leads me to the last question. When we do, and you've built this extraordinary career now, Simply Be, you have books and podcasts, and you're building your brand, which will only segment, grow, and exponentially grow and aggregate with the compound interest of Einstein's rule of 72, which I know you love, but I know you'll do that because you are on the right journey. But I think it's also important for someone that's as honest as you are to illuminate that you and I are still afraid.
Oh
That
yeah.
every day we deal with the darkness and the demons and the fear, and we catch ourselves when we want people to love us or say something nice, or and if someone doesn't say something nice, we go back and stop real quick and figure this out. And I'd love for you to help other people, especially young women who I find are particularly susceptible to this. I must have been a really great young woman because I had a need to be offended and right. And I beat myself up and cried at night. And, if you could help them understand the fear that you have today and how
Yeah.
you practice ending that, knowing, my goal is always let my fear be minutes and moments, not days, weeks, months, and years like it used to be. Let my fear be minutes and moments. How have you practiced to end that fear, the
Mm.
worthiness, the loving yourself, all the things we've talked about? I think it would be great for especially the young women listening and my daughters who love you as well to
Aw.
really learn, that everybody faces these fears. We're all
Absolutely.
insecure. We all want to be loved and pleased. But I really love your philosophy on fear and how you're practicing minutes and moments of it.
Oh my gosh, such a good question. I still want everyone to like me. like you said, like that's just
I like you.
I appreciate that. I take that. I receive that. I like you too, David. You know, I was bullied ruthlessly. Like it's still trauma. It's the trauma of being so disliked and never feeling like I fit in from the time I was, in middle school through high school, even college, has still plays itself out in my adult life, right? And so I definitely have that yearning to be liked, to be loved, to be accepted, to feel the sense of belonging. And I have invested, a lot of time in therapy and coaches and doing the work. I believe in the power of masterminds and retreats, submersing yourself with other people who are on the path, really finding your tribe of people who are doing the work simultaneously and going into community with them. That's been very healing for me to know truly, to feel viscerally that I am not alone in this. I journal. I really practice journaling every day. I have hundreds of journals in my closet from years since I was in 5th grade, in fact. And I really am very much clear that cathartic practice of getting my thoughts down on paper it's really powerful for me to see and process my own thoughts with myself. I've turned to spirit. I meditate a lot, really understanding that this is all in some sense a game, right? Like the 3D world, and we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. And for some people, when they hear like, oh God, meditate, everyone talks about meditate. For me, it's just sitting still. I don't always chant a mantra and go up to the 5D. Sometimes I just let myself listen to a song and breathe. Sometimes I dance and get in my body, and that's a meditation. And I've made connecting to my heart, whether it's sitting cross-legged and doing Om, or if it's just taking a walk through nature, that's meditation. So connecting with yourself. And a lot of young women, I'm speaking to them because you asked me the question, and I'm so glad you did. We're bombarded with noise. We're bombarded with imagery, projection, just static in the air of what makes us unworthy. And of all of the things I just said, all the tools in the toolkit, best thing you can do is unplug, tap out, be with yourself, sit with your own thoughts, feel your own heart, be in your own body, however that looks to you. And I think micro moments, minutes, whatever you said around fear, like meet yourself, because you're always safe. You're always safe, and you are always loved. And that has definitely been a practice.
Well, through that practice, being the CEO and founder of SimplyBe, your book Be, your podcast SimplyBe, you have truly learned to love yourself, and which is a lesson that's so difficult. And I'm certainly proud of you, and just proud of myself to attract someone like you into my life that truly
Ditto.
gets it. I encourage everyone in February 16th, check out the book Be, a No Bullshit Guide to increasing your self-worth and net worth by simply being yourself and learning to love yourself. Well, I certainly love you, and I know you love
Love you
yourself.
too. I
You come on the Playbook
love
whenever you
you.
want. Uh,
Deal.
this
What are
is
these?
Dave. Oh.
One of these days I'm going to see you in person, and when the world opens up, and I'm going to give you like this big juicy like hug and kiss you on your face and tell you what a mensch you are. Like, you're just an amazing spirit, and I
That's so
am
good. I love
equally
the,
grateful.
thank you. I love the there's a hugging angel. And all she does is go and give hug around the world. And I feel like as much as I've done virtually, I could be the next like hugging angel. Everyone wants to hug the furry Jewish bear. So I'm very huggable. Ask my wife. I
I can see
appreciate
that. You've got
it.
amazing energy, and I'm just so honored to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for simply being you, and we are so proud of you. This is Dave Meltzer with the incredible Jessica Zweig. She is the CEO and founder of SimplyBe. She has learned to love herself. She's a podcast host, an author, and an incredible soul. Thank you so much.